We've got a lot of customers that are saying, I don't have the manpower, I don't have the bandwidth, and nobody wants to work third shift anymore. How do I get my machine shop to work?
Welcome to Machine Shop Tech Talk, or welcome back to Machine Shop Tech Talk. In manufacturing, it's not if, but when something goes wrong, and you need to know the solutions, whether you're struggling with those problems today or down the road. Today, I've got my guest, Mark Christopher from DN Solutions. Beyond his engineering expertise, Mark is also the host of Know Your DN, a social media video series dedicated to educating and empowering DN Solutions CNC operators and manufacturers. Since launching the series in 2019, he has embraced the role of educator and communicator, making complex machining concepts accessible to a broad audience. His career has included managing a high production CNC machine shop, overseeing R&D prototype development for the medical device industry, and contributing to the advancements in diabetic lancing technology. A graduate of Gwynwitt Technical College, he holds an associate's degree in CNC machining disciplines with deep knowledge in CNC programming, CAD/CAM, and machining processes. Passionate about problem solving, continuous learning, and sharing his expertise, Mark is committed to helping businesses from small shops to Fortune 500 companies optimize their manufacturing processes and achieve success in an ever-evolving industry. Talking about evolution, Mark, I want to thank you for being here on the show. Two, I want to dig into the misconceptions that people have around palletizing and automating their machine tools.
Sure. Well, first of all, thanks for having me, Arthur. I appreciate it. You and I got to meet at IMTS, and it's just been a good relationship ever since. So I appreciate that. Some of the misconceptions that we've seen are and things that have happened just in the last, gosh, anywhere from the last 6 months to 2 years, with pipeline and manufacturing, is that I think a lot of people think my shop's too small, or I don't have a high production numbers enough that I need a pallet system. And I think with the advancements that we've had at DN, especially on the 5-axis side, so we've automated our 5-axis machines with a pallet system. You can go all the way up to like 40 pallets, and it goes vertical, so it saves space. All the way to our linear pallet systems. But I think people think either I don't have the space for it, they think I don't have the work for it, and they think I can't afford it. And I think we've worked really hard to be competitive because we want that manufacturing to come back to the United States. We want that inflow of manufacturing jobs to stay here. We'll sell you a machine in another country, but we really would like for it to stay in the United States or in Canada or in South America. We've become really competitive price wise, but more so, I have tried to be more communicative to people about so you don't have a high production number of parts to run. You can put multiple fixtures on a pallet and be ready for that job that only comes around every 6 months, or the guy that's got a race shop down the street and he all of a sudden he needs 5 or 10 of one certain job. You're able to answer that for him. You don't have to do a breakdown of your setup, build it back up, put the tools in. No, you can just call the pallet over there, spin it 90 degrees. There's his fixture. Put your material on, cut his parts, call him up the next day, charge him a bunch of money, and and make he's happy. He's got his parts turned around. You didn't have to break down the setup, and it was affordable. So that's in a nutshell. What we've tried to do and tried to explain to smaller shops that just think automation's not in their future, that it is in your future, and with different limitations that are in the market, it helps smaller shops. And obviously we can help bigger shops, obviously, with production, more traditional, the more traditional thinking of, well, I need a pallet system because I have 100,000 widgets to make this year. We can do that. But the smaller shops, and maybe we'll talk about it later, but there's demands in the market that are forcing shops to either go that way or get left behind.
Yeah, and I do want to talk about the demands, especially in your role that you're seeing in the market, because you have people coming to you for these packages. But it's so important that, we're all on that same goal. I want more manufacturing in North America. GDP for manufacturing, last time I checked, was around 11%. I want to see that number up around 22. I want to double it. I want to go full hog on that, right?
Absolutely.
So and automation and palletizing, I think, is severely misunderstood. It's another area of manufacturing where people are still got their 1990s head on, and
Right.
it's not serving them because they're missing opportunities. I've talked to small shops that have saw the light, and they're like, man, our biggest issue is the job that used to take us 3 weeks now takes 3 days, and we got to put more stuff on the machine tool because they've got all this lights out and everything else as a result of it. My question to you then is, let's go into the demands. What are you seeing right now, or trends that you're seeing that you're working on for packages that have maybe changed over the last 2 years? Because those tariffs, man, they're bringing a lot of work back, so let's make some money on it.
Yeah, and there's a lot that's driven. Ever since COVID, really, it changed people's mindset. Everybody from some big names that I could name, and I'm not going to name drop them,
Yeah.
to the mom and pop shops down the street that are making bicycle parts, or specialized parts for local markets,
Mhm.
that have good money. They have good margins on them. So the mindset has changed a lot from COVID. But and you talk about the tariffs. I'm not trying to be political, but it's money, right? It's money, one way or the other. If it's coming or going, it's money.
Yeah.
So if we can keep the manufacturing in house, then we avoid those issues, whether it's pipeline issues, whether it's taxes, whatever. We avoid those if we can do those in house. So the trends that I've seen, to answer your question. We've got a lot of customers that are saying, I don't have the manpower, I don't have the bandwidth, and nobody wants to work third shift anymore. So how do I get my machine shop to work? And the money's. I always say the money's made at the spindle. Yes, it's made in a lot of other
Yeah.
places, but if the spindle's not turning and you're a machine shop, you're not making money. Um,
Yeah.
so so you've got, I had a customer that was out in Colorado, that small shop, and I didn't know them before I went out there, but I went out there to do their training on an LPS, on a linear pallet system. And when I got there, I literally thought, oh, I must be at the office. This is not the right place. And long story short, our linear pallet system was in this shop that looking from the outside, thought it was too small for it to exist in there. But what was this guy doing? This guy had went out, had landed some contract work for some high mix, low volume parts that other people could not make. And he saw the opportunity. The salesman did his job. He saw the opportunity to utilize a pallet system because he could get multiple fixtures on just one pallet, and now he's got 12
Yeah.
pallets. So he saw that opportunity. He did some math. We have some software that we use that we can kind of tell what the throughput would be. He did the math himself and said, "Hey, I'll buy this pallet system. I'm going to use it. My spindle will I'll run lights out." He's actually sent pictures. I've actually seen pictures where it was dark and the machines in there running. It looks really cool. They may or may have not added some LED lighting that makes it look even really cool. But
Nice.
it doesn't come standard with the machine, and I can't sell it to you. But it looks cool.
Yeah.
But they run lights out, and they run 7 days a week. The
Hmm.
guy, he told me, he's like, I can sit on my boat, on the lake on Saturday at 1 o'clock in the
Yeah.
afternoon and say, oh, I'm on pallet number 35, and I probably need to run by the shop later this evening and fill it up so that it'll run on Sunday. So,
Hmm.
and he's a one man band. So,
Yeah.
that is where we're headed, or that is where the market has gone, with a lot of smaller shops. With they don't have the people, or maybe they just don't have the bandwidth in their piggy bank to afford an extra body, or a skilled person that they need. Let the pallet system do it. Let the robots do the work. So that's where we've seen how things have gone. And my, from I do a lot of proposals for DNs. I go out and talk to customers about what their needs are and how we can meet them. And from my standpoint, I'm meeting with and talking to more of what people would consider job shops or mom and pop shops than I am with major manufacturers. So that's what I'm seeing.
It's an interesting trend. I mean, because you're talking about a lot of the value there, running lights out, less people getting more work done. Everybody talks about the lack of availability in North America for bodies, for people to work. These are all big wins when people choose to work with palletization, to consider it for their operations. Are there any other benefits? Because this is something you work a lot on. Are there other benefits besides the lights out and less bodies, more work, whether it's ROI or whatever kind of benefits that you're seeing for the customers that go that way?
Yeah. So the other thing that we've seen too is like for us specifically, we've got like eight, what we call it, 8-digit tool management on the machine, but you can run sister tools so that you can not lose manufacturing, or lose manufacturing time. So let's say I'm cutting a pallet and it's in the middle of the night, it breaks a tool. It'll kick that pallet out. It'll still bring in the next good pallet. It'll go get the next good tool and just keep right on going. That has been an advantage, I guess you would say, beyond that. The other thing too is that the software that we have, we call it the DPMS software. It tracks, it tracks your operators. It tracks their production. It tracks your machine production. It tracks everything you can think of, from alarms to messages to anything you can think of. And what's really funny about that, I love to tell people this story, is that I'll go, and when I'm doing these trainings, or I'll be showing them how the software works, the operators will say, don't show the boss how this works, because then they'll be able to see what my production time is, or how long that pallet's been sitting at the setup station, or how long I was gone to lunch. It wasn't 30 minutes, it was 40. So it's kind of funny. The managers, the bean counters, they're all like, oh, give me this intel, give me this information so we can do it better. And the operators out on the floor who've been doing the same job for 20 years are like, oh, please don't show them how this works. So, but it's a huge advantage to the company, right? And we're all here to make money. We've seen, so to answer your question, so we've seen a money saving. It's a money saving deal from that side of the business. When we also have tool load monitoring software that works hand in hand with the DPMS software. So if that tool starts to load up, it'll just see that it's hit a max. It'll kick it out and say, hey, you probably need to check this part. Let's just keep running. We'll go get the next good tool and just keep going. So that's been an advantage. And that just, that contributes to the lights out. The other part is, some of our vendors, the third party, like the fixturing. I was down in Texas, and we had a customer that went into another customer and saw how they were setting up their fixturing, how they were, and it was on a palletized system, and how they had used some of, the fixturing to get even more parts, more than you would on a tombstone. And that sounds kind of crazy, right? But it was a smaller pallet. So it was a 5-axis machine. Pallets were more like 250 millimeters. So it's a smaller pallet. So you think, well, smaller pallet, I can't get as many parts on there. But with some of the advancements in fixturing, with some of our different partners that we have, they were able to get multiple sides machine on one part. And it was pretty interesting. Walked in, they showed them their whole process. We walked out of the building, and literally the salesman turned around and said, so what do you guys think? And it was actually a female-owned company. And she kind of paused for a second, and she goes, what I was thinking was going to take 6 months to complete this contract, I'm thinking will take 1 month. And it's,
Oh, wow.
it's light bulb moments like that where, I didn't know their process. They know their process, right? I don't know their process completely. And I said, and I was kind of shocked. I said, really? And she said, yeah. She said, we just hadn't thought about how we could palletize this. She said, but what they're doing is similar to what we're doing. And now seeing how they're doing that, she's like, she had three or four of her guys with her, and she was just like, don't you guys think so? And he's like, yeah, my mind's totally opened up to what we can do. And when you see things like that, it's where, to me, it's like turning corners. It's where companies have been doing it the same way for the last 5 years. And then they either see it or they hear about it another way. And all of a sudden the light bulb comes on and they come to us and say, hey, that guy down the street's doing this an amazing way with your stuff. We want the same thing.
Yeah.
That was kind of a long-winded answer. So I
but
apologize.
but it is a lot of the other benefits, especially because I have a follow-up question, but especially around the 5-axis side of the automation, because 5-axis, and now it's changing now because it's been so long in the market, but for the longest time there was shops buying 5-axis just because they didn't want to be without a 5-axis machine, but then they were only using it for 6-sided machining, and they were letting it sit, and they were still running their verticals every time they had other jobs because they weren't thinking, like you were able to show this company, like about the ways to combine all the different jobs on a single pallet on the 5-axis. So I love those light bulb moments, right? Like personally, that's what I live for. It's why I do the podcast, because I'm hoping someone's going to listen, have a light bulb moment, and it lets them unlock something else for themselves, right? So absolutely. I interview people like yourself that are experts out there, because you see all kinds of stuff that the average human's never going to get exposed to. So that's really, really cool. And it's a whole lot of value, right? That the answer that you gave, as long-winded as it was, but no.
Well, one short point I'll make. One short point I want to make with you is that I just happened to think about was, you talking about the 5-axis side. Very few people. There's a lot of people that aren't buying a 5-axis machine for a 5-axis machine. They'll never do 5-axis machine. They're buying it so that they can do multiple setups, and then you take some dynamic fixturing, and now they've got multiple sides and things that get machined, and they'll never machine a surface or a dynamic surface. They'll never machine a dynamic surface in the whole time they own that machine. So to your point.
Yeah, and I'm seeing more of that, which I absolutely love, because it's just versatility. But so my kind of like my tie-up question, we're getting close to that 20-minute mark now, so I want to tie this up. The final question is, because you do all this palletization and the automation and all of this stuff right now, what machine group do you get the most like opportunities on? Is it still 3-axis verticals, horizontals, or is 5-axis, now we just had a great conversation about that, is 5-axis starting to emerge and like grow to you're automating them more? What's the balance like for you?
And that's a fantastic question. So I would say 5 years, and I've been working on the pallet side of DN's world for the last 8.5 years. 5 years ago, I would have said it's mainly horizontals, right? It's mainly horizontals. Now, the 5-axis world has started to, if it was a race, they've started to catch up. And the reason goes back to what I was just talking about, where you can hit multiple sides, you can hit angled holes, you can hit angled cuts, and then you can go around the other side of the part and never take the part out of the machine. Spindle never stops turning. So that part has happened, or that has become a big thing. The other thing that I would hit on is space, right? Everybody need the biggest thing we hear, what's the footprint? What's the layout? I need a layout because I don't think it's going to fit in my building. So one of the things with our 5-axis machines is you can go vertical. So if you've got some ceiling space, we can stack to it. So we have, just for instance, on a DVF 5000 500 millimeter pallet machine, we can go up to 40 pallets tall just on a round pallet system. So
wow.
And I can't recall off the top of my head how tall it is, but I wouldn't say it's more than maybe 15 feet tall. So, so it's compact, it's cool. It's really neat, but that's that advantage. You take a 5-axis machine that, like you just said, is in every shop, or it's almost showing up in every shop. And whether it's our machine or one of our competitors' machines, everybody's trying to get their hands on a 5-axis machine so that they have that ability. When you throw the pallet side into it and being able to have that extra component, it just makes it all that more powerful. And I love to just give examples, real world examples, right? Because everybody likes to, we can talk it in theory, but real world example, we've got a customer in California that has one of those 40 pallet systems. It's we call it AWC, but they have it on a 5-axis machine. He runs 40, those 40 pallets all have the exact same part. And he runs it lights out. He runs it constantly, runs it over the weekend, with nobody standing there in front of it. And he loves it. I talk to him probably about every 4 to 6 months. And he loves it. He's absolutely in love with it. And it's changed, it's changed how he's thinking. He's thinking he's going to buy another one, which that's what we like, right? So, but I would say the 5-axis is, to answer your question, the 5-axis has caught the horizontal, and I would say is probably, passing that arena.
That's really cool. I've definitely heard about more people automating 5-axis machines. That's why I was curious about what you're seeing on your side. If I just have a bias with the people I talk to, the reality is, I mean, yeah, everybody wants to get the sale and everything else, but for a business owner to choose to make another purchasing decision, it means the ROI is there. It means right. He's making money on that decision. He's able to trust the people that he chose to reach out to, because otherwise he could like the automation system and be like, yeah, you know what, actually I'm going to go with a different builder though, because I didn't like your guys, whatever, I didn't like. So it speaks to the whole supply chain and the support system post sale of that testament that the ROI is there, the people are good, and he knows that this is an investment that makes sense for the future of his machine shop.
Absolutely. I'll give you one more too.
Great.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Listen,
okay.
It's been good.
One more.
I'll give you one more. So the other thing we're starting to see is a mix of, they want a horizontal machine and a 5-axis machine on the same pallet system. And so, and what they do is they do their roughing on the horizontal, and then they'll do all their finishing stuff on the 5-axis. So that's another, that has really come about in the last 6 months to a year. We've started to see more and more requests for that.
I don't want to make it too long, but so I'm just curious though, Mark, like, let's say they already have a horizontal, like a DN horizontal, so it's the same ecosystem on the floor. As long as it's possible to automate it, could you hook it up into like a new 5-axis purchase or vice versa then to try to get someone that sell?
Yeah, so those would be retrofits, and those have been huge in the last year. We've done a ton of retrofits, but yes, you can. There's some that are not compatible in our line. That some of them are not compatible. Some of them are. So like you can mix like a DVF 6500, 650 milliliter machine, and an NHP 5000. So you can mix them together, and you can retrofit. So if you've got a machine you've had for 2 years and you want to put it on a pallet system, we can do that. Cool. Yeah, we can do that. Sometimes it takes some extra components from the factory. Sometimes it takes our engineers to say, okay, we're going to have to add, because of the latest version of our pallet system and the machine is 2 years old, they may have to put some extra components on there, but we can usually make it work.
Very cool, man. Well, thank you so much for sharing what you're seeing on the side, really to help make manufacturing more affordable here, in whether it's on the USA side, Canada, somewhere in North America, maybe even South America, nearshoring, whatever that looks like. So appreciative of your experience, Mark.
And Arthur, I appreciate everything you've done in the industry. I enjoy watching your stuff on YouTube, and always seem to learn something. So I appreciate you just as much.
Well, on that note, everyone, if you have made it this far into the podcast, make sure that you that you're clicking follow, because if you stayed this long, we know you like the conversation, and we've got more of that coming for you. If you want to get connected with Mark, he's going to send me the contact details down below, so you know whichever ones you use, it's approved by him. And to all my machining friends, keep your spindles turning and earning.